All right, let's get right into it. So what are we going to build today? We're going to use Golang to go ahead and create a CSV or comma separated value file. So this is the first step in creating an automated process for taking some information, bringing it into a particular service, and then creating a CSV file as a report or some other form, right? CSV you can use as an Excel file, things of that nature. So let's just jump right in. We're going to start from the beginning. So this assumes you have no Go experience. And if you're looking to go ahead and get started with Go, go ahead and check the video in my video catalog. There should be one somewhere in there that shows you how to install Go. So without further ado, let's get started. So this presupposes you have some code editor. I'm using Visual Studio Code, but you can use what you're comfortable with. So we're going to create a new file. Over here, we're going to call this main.go. After we go ahead and create the main.go file, we're going to want to go to our command line, and we're going to go ahead and say go mod init, and we're going to call this CSV gen. Awesome. So once we get to the coding part, we're going to go ahead and call this package main. And so all we're saying here is that this is going to live in the main package. So if we want to call this from another file, we would call main dot whatever. Fantastic. So now we're going to go ahead and say func main, and it's not going to take any arguments, and we're going to create the function. So first, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and create a variable to store our file name. So we're going to call this all caps file name, and we're going to say equals, and we're just going to call this unique csv.csv. So now that we have a file name, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and import a CSV reader and writer. And for this, we're going to use a package that comes with Golang, and that's CSV. So we're going to say, well, first we want to go ahead and create a file. So we're going to say file or F error, right? Because with Go, we want to go ahead and catch the errors that could be potentially thrown from these low-level functions. So we're going to use the low-level function os.create. And using this create, we're going to go ahead and pass in the file name that we just created. And what this is going to do is this is going to create the file with the file name that we created, with the ability to write to this file. So next, in traditional Go fashion, we want to check what's if there's anything in the error. If there is something in the error, then we want to go ahead and log that and quit from the program. So we're going to say if error is not equal to nil, we're going to go log.fail, and we're going to say error. Great. So now that we've checked the error, now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and defer the closing of this file. And so typically what you have in a programming language is you need to go ahead and close these pointers to these open objects in memory, right? So we open up this file, there's a space in memory that's going to be able to read and write things from that particular space. What we want to do is we want to defer that closure so it happens automatically for us, as opposed to us forgetting we never closed that file, and then we now have all these memory pointers and our computer crashes. So we're going to say defer f.close. Fantastic. So now we want a reader and a writer for this particular file. Specifically a writer, because we want to write all those dope pieces of data to this file for you. So let's go ahead and get that. So we're going to say W, and I believe this needs an error, and we're going to say, whoops, we're going to say CSV dot new writer, and we're going to go ahead and pass the file in here. And yes, so this doesn't actually throw an error here, so we're going to erase that error. And so now we have a CSV writer. Now we need to go ahead and write to the CSV. Now you're probably going to have some headers you want to write to this file. So for this particular program, and now again, this isn't the super automated way. This is the manual way, and this presupposes you're somewhat of a coder. But what we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to go ahead and create our headers. So we're going to say headers equals, and we want a slice of strings. And in that slice of strings, these are going to be our headers. So we'll say ID, and then we'll say name, and then maybe we'll say address. Fantastic. I'm going to put that comma there. Awesome. So now we have our headers. What we want to go ahead and do now is we want to write these headers to that file. So we want to say w.write, and we want to write headers. And for this, right, what happens is this is going to actually write it to a buffer. Now, all the text speak aside, all the buffer is just a place in memory where it's going to store it until you want to go ahead and commit all of that information to this file, at which point it'll be dumped into the file. So there's two ways you can do this with Go. You can say w.flush, and it'll do this immediately after this write. So it'll write these particular, or this slice of strings or the headers to the CSV file. Or we could do like we did above, and we could defer w.flush to the end of the actual creation of this particular program. So we're going to go ahead and defer and leave that there. So now we got our headers, and now we just want to go ahead and write the rest of our data, right? So maybe you have some particular, let's say, record set. So let's say records here, and we're going to do a two-dimensional array. So let's go a string of strings. Did I do that right? I don't think I did that. So we'll say a map like that. So a map, we say a string of strings. That's not what we're actually looking for, right? We want, yeah, we do. That's what we want. I'm sorry, my fault. And so we're going to say records. So we'll say this, records. And then we'll go ahead and create our array. So we'll say strings, and then we'll put a comma here. And this needs to have quotes around it. Awesome. Now, this actually isn't what we wanted. Now that I'm looking at this, we want a 2D array. So we want string. I'm doing something wrong here. No, we want something else that I'm not thinking about right now. Slice of slices of strings. I'm doing something terribly incorrect. Okay, great. So right here, this is what we want, right? So inside this slice, we're going to have a slice of strings. So we'll say like this, and we'll go string, right? And we'll say we need an ID. We'll say 1. We'll say name, and we'll say 1, 2, 3 Apple Way, right? And then of course we're going to do this, that, this, right? So now we have our records, and so now we have two options here. Now we can go and loop through and write each one by itself. So we could say for underscore, so that we can go ahead and mute. I'll call it mute. There's probably another technical term, but we don't want to go ahead and use what's in that position there, right? And then we want to go ahead and say record, and we want to say range of records. And then we just loop through these, right? Now this first part here is the actual index inside of this 2D array, or 2D slice, so slice of slices. And we're just going to mute that. We don't want to go ahead and handle that, because if we didn't do this, when we tried to run it, it would say this isn't in use, right? It's going to be some type of warning, and we don't want that. So we could do this, and then we could go w.write and then we go ahead and pass the current record, right? And then we can go ahead and defer w.flush here. Or we could go like this, we could go w.write all, and as you can see here, we have records, right? A slice of slices of strings, right? Of type strings. So we do this and we go records, boom, and then we go w.flush, and it looks like a redundant type from array, slice, or map. Right. So Jake, John, and Max. Right now, there's other ways to go ahead and push and put this in here. Obviously, you're probably going to be coming from another system. You might want to read from a database or something like that. Red way, and it looks like, I guess I don't need to do this. That's what it was actually saying. All right, there it is. So now we just go ahead and go run main.go, and we should see this in here. So there you go. And that's how you go ahead and create a CSV in Go. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. Go ahead and leave a like, hit that dislike if you didn't like it. But as always, I hope you learned something. Have a wonderful day. Deuces.